Hey guys, and welcome back to episode 53 of Mods 10. Before recording, was just in the middle of addressing a comment from Lesnets all the way back on episode 19 where I made this quantum computer. Comments on the screen probably, thank you editing KSAW. But they said that I should decorate the cube with the outside with a similar pattern as the other crafting things, and you know what, in hindsight, I don't understand why I didn't do that. This has the potential to look so good from a distance. But I figured I'd just do it while I am doing my intro. So, roll a short time lapse? And yeah, that actually looks pretty decent. I'm sort of sad about not coming up with that earlier. That's why I have you guys to tell me and give me ideas. Speaking of receiving ideas from the comments section, the real Coleman on episode 52 commented that they want to see more Oritech, and that is something I want to get into a little bit too. Oritech seems like such a cool mod, and you know, just doing everything at the basic tier seems like a little bit of a waste. So I think I'm going to make a little bit of progress through the course and see what Oritech's truly capable of. Looking at the documentation here, and it definitely has some power generation. 32 RF per tick from the basic generator, 64 from the lava generator, bio generator generates 64, solar can go up to 225 depending on the cores, fuel generators can burn crude oil and produce 256. Now these would make cool decorations, but I was just scrolling. There's their steam power, which is pretty cool too. But the nuclear reactors are in here. You know I gotta try making a nuclear reactor. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. First things first, I want to make me one of them higher tier cores, the improved, and let's just go ahead and make the advanced, which I can somehow already make. The elite, which I can also already make. The ultra, which probably is missing this gem in the middle thing, the dubious doohickey container. And then the ultimate. And that means that I can already go with the ultra because, well, this one was easy enough to make. The ultimate is probably what's going to hold me up. This needs particle acceleration to make the overcharged crystals and stuff. You'll get to it, I promise. I don't know, let's just request 20 of these ultra machine cores, and I do want to check in on what this is doing. Oh, this is going to be making some of these Duraplast sheets using the old immersive engineering setup all the way back here. That was out of render distance, that's how far away it was, but there it is, making me Duraplast. Perfect. But to be fair, I do want to check out the Oritech version of plastic. Oritech's plastic comes from either cooling down molten plastic or separating slurries. Using a raw biopolymer and a mineral slurry gives me plastic. What about molten plastic? How do I get molten plastic? Oh, you just melt plastic, is that it? Interesting. I mean, the most efficient recipe uses mineral slurry and polymer resin, and polymer resin requires light naphtha, which means I get to go into petrochem. Well, I almost happen to have everything I need to make this refinery. I'm missing the refinery chamber module. And am I going to go with the slime balls or the silicon? I think I'm going to go with the slime balls because that seems like a fairly simple thing to do. Industrial support beams are made with rods and steel. And the portable tank is just copper, fluid pipes, and glass. I don't like the fact that it's using quartz glass though. And let's get this refinery going. Oh, and isn't this a funky little shape? Interesting. I think I'm going to make a room right here. The frame's in place, and following this guy's beautiful purple color, I think a room made with stripped crimson followed by a little bit of orange from the rest of Oritech would look rather snazzy. I am thinking about a bland sort of floor which makes it very easy to manage industrial spills because, you know, that's a refinery. Sometimes things leak out. And then, of course, I'm gonna have to pull the frame for the room all the way back through. That's sort of been the theme throughout my base, actually. As you can see, every single room has its frame. Of course, I just had to copy in the roof as well, and now for the walls, and that's where the fun happens. I think I want to make a crimson motif going all the way around, and the green, orange, purple, whatever, can live right in the middle 3x3 right here. And hey, with this quick little room set up, I can now put in this, and right on time, my cores are also done. So this needs cores in this sort of orientation, and given that there's going to be stuff on top of this, let's just move this a little bit further back. Out of here seems like a good idea. I do want to see the machine though, so let's move it over here. Here in the corner. Yeah. And then you can just sort of keep clicking on this or just hold down right click until it's done assembling itself. And would you look at that, a refinery. Now, without its two extra things on top, this thing only takes in one input and produces one output with one solid input. But with a couple of these extra little modules, I believe I should be able to make it so that this thing, oh, it needs more cores? That's okay, I have extra cores. Can unlock its two other outputs, and each one of these should take 5. And just right click it. And bada bing, bada boom. That looks like it's a completed refinery. Those aren't connected. I mean, they sure do look connected. Are we okay here? Yep, I just had built them the other way around. They're supposed to go above the refinery block. So that's the refinery block, above it's a machine core, and then the modules go above it. The documentation wasn't the best about it. It just says it needs to be placed above and connected, so I figured, you know, as long as it's touching on the sides. But no. That little thing needs to make contact with the glass. That's the dealio here. And now this thing can take one input and split it into 3. I have gone ahead and pulled a cable all the way from the other side of the staircase to this interface right here to pipe in some oil. And given the fact that I do happen to have an oily bee, I think there should be nothing stopping me from dumping oil directly into this interface, given I can find the appropriate type of oil. I have RTP'd out in the middle of nowhere to generate some brand new chunks with crude oil in them. Apparently, crude oil isn't something you can just farm out of an oily bee. And this sort of looks like it, really. It's a nondescript dark liquid coming out of the ground and is in a somewhat spherical reservoir at the bottom. I did go and check, you'll have to take my word for it. I'm just wondering if I gotta take a bucket of this stuff and just grab one and see what happens, because, well, crude oil bucket from Oritech. This is it. So as I was saying, to actually get the crude oil out of the ground, you gotta use the Oritech pump, and this is something I'm probably just gonna set up out here and then just chunk load and forget about. And oh my god, I did not expect this guy to just be a tiny little pump jack. This guy has done its job and filled up with 16 buckets. And I did make myself a dimensional tank, the first of the season. Yep. And is this gonna export out, or do I have to pull out of this? I think I gotta pull out of this. So let's put the tank here, I guess. And sure enough, a mechanism pipe works perfectly fine to fill up and fill out. And the real question is if this is slowly draining the entire oil patch at the bottom, which I do want to check out, but it's easier to go down if I am just flying. And yes, it does look like it is pulling out one block at a time ever so slowly. I can see the blocks blinking around. Yeah, it's scanning through and blocking out the blocks. Interesting. So this is a extinguishable resource. A non-renewable, if you will. Is that the hole I came in from? Yes, I think it is. The other end of that connection for the tank can live right here. As you can see, the dimensional tank is already filled with oil. And I should just be able to hook this on in, exactly like so. And then oil will show up in my ME system. Somewhere here, 16 buckets of Oritech oil. Perfect. Let's just put down a pipe over here and have this guy pull out and push into here. Is that allowed? Can I do it from the side? Yes, I sure can. This is slowly filling up and giving me sulfuric acid, naphtha, and teeny tiny amounts of heavy oil. 4 total liquids going into a fluid drive, which is the sulfuric acid, the heavy oil, the light naphtha, and for the future, let's just also put in the mineral slurry, and an equal distribution card just so none of them override the others. And this thing can live in my storage. And hooking up the outputs should pretty much be as simple as that, because for a second the things mix up together, but that's alright, because every now and again this will go through a process, produce heavy oil, produce the light oil, and that'll all end up in here. Am I already out of oil? That's a little bit concerning actually. Nope, I wasn't out of oil. This storage bus was not set to oil, and so it backfilled this tank with shale oil out of this drill right here. Not the best of things, but hey, we're now back up and running again. Buckets of light naphtha with sand finally gives the polymer resin, and that polymer resin will eventually turn into plastic. Wait a minute, it's a good thing I looked, because it turns out that there's a better recipe. Hold on. In a centrifuge, you can combine 100 millibuckets of light naphtha instead of a whole bucket and just a single sand to make twice the amount of polymer resin. And that is a great deal. New centrifuge goes in right here, and I have specifically placed these facing this way so I can add add-ons to the back of these. Now, add-ons are pretty cool. Each one of these add-ons does something specific that you can check out when you hit control, and for example, the ones I'm interested are speed, but there's multiple others that add the speed for a quarry, increase the efficiency overall, add extra capacity, allow the boiler to produce steam instead of power, etc, etc. Redstone control. This one does both speed and efficiency, but I am here for just speed. 10% extra speed versus 18% extra speed? I think I'm going for synergy, mate. Never mind, I'm going for speed add-ons. Yeah, that's more my speed. Wait, biosteel looks like it's a non-replaceable element of this recipe, so quick side quest to make some biosteel. That comes directly from ingots. There has to be an Oritech way. These are no alloying. With raw biopolymer. Oh, I gotta set up another one of these centrifuges. Hooray. 1 packed wheat, which will then be used to make this right here with some water and packed wheat biopolymer. And I'm gonna use the brand new one for it. I feel ever so slightly stupid right now. The centrifuge doesn't have a fluid recipe or a fluid slot in its recipe, but this thing requires fluid processing, and there exists a fluid add-on. Well, if I'm going to be making multiple add-ons, I might as well just make the extender while I'm at it. And that's just carbon plating and an improved machine core. And a second refinery to make me the carbon sheets required to make the carbon blocks to make the machine extenders. Right there. And finally, add-on extenders in hand. I can put all of these here and then put the add-ons on the extenders. Now, to finally explain what the machine level means, the quality level 6 means that I can chain together 6 extra extenders, like so, and they would all connect together until the 7th one, at which point this fluid add-on will not be connected to this centrifuge. As you can see, that is 7 layers deep, and however, if I replace this and move this away basically 1 layer further inwards, so it's only 6 layers away, I now have access to the add-ons. So, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put speed add-ons on this. And in fact, if you put down an add-on and it lights up red, that means it's not active. In any case, that's probably enough speed add-ons, and now I can try and make some bioplastic or biosteel or whatever that was. Let's say I want to make 10 biosteel. Let's take a quick look at the speed here. 286 times the processing speed, even though its energy efficiency has gone down a tad bit. Interesting. And this guy can also take extenders and add-ons, but this is only at tier 1 or 2. More tiers, more machines, more, faster, more better, hell yeah. I was in the middle of conducting some science so that you don't have to, and it turns out that only one of the machines can be connected to a single group of add-ons. What I was trying to do was have 2 rows of extenders connected to 2 machines, and that is a no-no. So what has ended up happening is that this one machine, which everything is initially connected to, has a 740% processing speed from all of its add-ons and a significant hit to its efficiency. And this guy has no benefits, even though both of them are connected to the extenders. So the original with the old setup is no more, it is just decoration. This guy is the new workhorse. And of course I can't be working with some terrible efficiency like that, so let's bring those efficiency numbers up, shall we? 50%? That's better actually. Better than nothing. Another thing that caught my attention was this capacitor add-on, which gives you an increased transfer rate so this machine can take more power out of the gates itself. Because I bet these are somehow internally limited with how much, maximum transfer, 512 hours per tick. Let's up those numbers, shall we? All I'm missing is energite. Oh, and energite is just fluxite and nickel? That's easy enough. Now to finally get the plastic going, I'm gonna need mineral slurry. And that is gonna live on this wall right here. I'm simply gonna do the good old trick of using an interface requesting some oxygen, and because I have so much copper, I'm probably just gonna pull raw copper directly out of my network at a high priority, and then have it put out through a subnet into this purifying factory. This guy will need a gate, so that goes there. An export bus on the subnet for oxygen, and an export bus for the raw copper. I'm just gonna have to go in and make sure that this is items input from the top, chemicals input from the side. Those extras don't matter exactly. And perfect. Raw ore comes from the wall way back in the distance there. That guy right there. I turned off the auto smelt, and now I'm getting raw copper shipped directly into this purifying factory right here. It's been completely upgraded with 8 out of 8 upgrades for everything, and it rips pretty damn fast. In fact, if I were to look at the clumps, it's already done 638, and every now and again when it gets copper, comes in here, gets processed, and now finally I'll be able to make myself some plastic. The process of making mineral slurry, however, does make copper gem, and although I can smelt down a copper gem to make copper ingots, or alternatively alloy it together to make a gem or make more dust using fluxite, I think I'm just gonna get rid of them. It's genuinely not worth my time. And of course the way I'm choosing to get rid of it is by putting it in a 1K storage drive with an overflow destruction. Just so that if should I ever need some, I have some, but the rest, I don't really care. And finally, that should mean that I can make myself the Oritech plastic. Hooray. Now, this thing should be going pretty darn fast, and sure enough it is. 740%. This thing barely drops in charge. I don't quite like the fact that there's extra sulfuric acid in here, and I bet it's because of this. This can only pull out solids, not liquids. And that means that the solid items, which is the copper clumps turning into the copper gems, were pulled out, but the fluids have remained. And this thing is not processing any further because the copper chunks or clumps also got pulled out. I don't like this. And I think I'm gonna solve this problem once again with the subnet. Everything can be imported over here, and on this guy I'll want an inverter card. Yep, one of these bad boys, just so that I can say I want everything except copper gems to be imported and stored into this pattern provider. A little bit of orange cable to go with the theme as the sun rises from chunks that aren't rendering in. This thing should now continue working if I am to give it clumps. And clumps I shall provide. So, here we are. And hey, I don't like that. You should do this first. There we go. Now. Oh, but now this won't pull out the copper. Oh, that's annoying. What happens if I do this? That pulls out the gems. Perfect. I then don't want it to go out and pull the polymer resin, which it in fact I don't think did. What? Oh, I'm dumb. I meant to put copper clumps in here so that the inputs are never pulled out. Perfect. You know, my brain is getting pretty fried on this Oritech, and it's fairly late at night. I'm gonna continue recording tomorrow. A few sleeps later. I honestly don't even remember what I was up to. I did some clearing of the walls behind me, and all that's left in my tabs is the ultimate machine core. And this guy seems like it could use a few more machines. That's why I cleared the space. The ultimate machine core is made with promethium and superconductors. Promethium is an engraving process in an atomic forge, which I already have set up right there in the previous episode. Go watch that one in case you missed it. But it uses something called overcharged crystals, which is just a crafting recipe or can be made with particle collision. And I want to make a particle accelerator because that simply sounds cool. More machines? More machines. But it seems like a lot of those particle accelerator recipes link back to the superconductor. How do I make one of these? Oh, that's easy. It's just an assembling recipe. Takes 16 seconds though. It looks like someone's going from basic to ultra. This was because one lucky machine's getting many upgrades. Including not only speed, actually half speed, half capacity doesn't sound too bad, or efficiency. There we go. This should make it nice and fast. And honestly, this add-on is probably the best one, so I might as well bookmark this too. And you know what, just for the time being, while I don't have a particle accelerator set up, I am going to use the simple crafting recipe for the, what is this now, overcharged crystal? Yeah, and I have recipes for all of these so far. Everything except a block of amethyst apparently, which I can now make. And that means that I can now use the engraving from this guy right here. Oh, but it's pattern provider's back here somewhere. Hold on. Just gotta slip out behind the machine and put this in here. Now I do wonder though, does this guy have any add-on slots? Gotta be very careful when breaking these because I don't want to break everything with this really fast tool. It doesn't look like it does. Interesting. So I don't think this would have any effect with better cores because I have no add-ons to put on it. Yeah, this doesn't have an add-on slot, but if I look at the lasers and click add-ons, I can add add-ons at the bottom of the laser. Interesting. But with all of that out the way, I think I have everything I need to encode myself a recipe for the core. Yeah. I don't know, let's just make 10 of them. 10 ultimate machine cores. That's the one, right? Sure is. I just have to speed up my sheet production. Actually, all of these. That's producing acetylene, ethanol, and then phenolic resin. That should be fine. Right, that only took an absolute eternity. But hey, at least I got the achievement. And to round out this video, I do want to set up a tiny little nuclear reactor just to suss out what Oritech's nuclear production is all about. And I feel like I'm gonna have to read some documentation. And a little bit of reading later, you'll need the following components to make a nuclear reactor. The control panel, the reactor walls itself, the reactor rods, which increase efficiency the more you put in, and I'm just choosing to go with quads for now, which need the double, which then need the single. You can also add neutron reflectors to increase efficiency, heat pipes to move the heat around, vents to passively cool the reactor, fuel ports to input fuel, coolant absorbers to actively cool the reactor, the energy port to push the energy out of the reactor, and then a heat absorber that goes below the ports, the cooling ports. I am choosing to build this as a 7x7 with a 5x5 interior, but you know what? Oritech actually supports a max size of 64 in any axis, so you know what? I'm gonna commit to the bit. I want to make the most efficient Oritech reactor at max size. So, you should probably keep your eyes out for that one and subscribe so you don't miss it. Anyways, back to this one. The controller for this guy, I want to put at this level here. And as you can see right now, it says, how does it say I have our production when there's nothing in here? It's completely empty. You good, bro? Or does it just passively produce something? What? Alright, my reactor quad rods are now complete. Just had to time one a few things, and I am choosing to go with quad rods down the middle. And something to note is that every single layer has to be identical except the top, and the top can be left exposed to the elements. So I'm going to have 5 quad rods going down the middle, and a single reactor fuel port on top of that to fuel all of these with uranium. I'm then going to go ahead and add neutron reflectors to all of these sides, and the fact that these glow is oddly satisfying. Are these actual sources of light? They are. That is very cool. I, in all honesty, knowing nothing about these reactors at the moment, except what I've read, happen to assume that this will produce a lot of heat, so I'm using a whole bunch of heat absorbers going all the way up the sides along these reflectors, and the heat is going to be transferred into these using all of these heat pipes. And I'm just going to repeat this pattern going all the way down. So same thing happens here, and the same thing happens here too. Did I just accidentally make the exact amount I need? Yes, I did. What a coinkydink. All of these will then get topped off with their coolant absorber ports so that these can be fed their respective coolants. And I believe ice, packed ice, and blue ice make fine coolants. And I'm going to be using blue ice because I have packed ice completely automated. After closing it all in, I'd realized I'd forgotten the energy port, and on the energy port I'll put a singular thing that's going to receive on all sides, and it's going to be receiving from down. So this guy is going to put all of its power into this ender gate, which is basically constantly full, but hey, I don't care. I just want to try this out. And you know, now that this is all built out, I am realizing that this is pretty damn serious, and I don't want this blowing up in case I'm doing something incorrectly, so I am really quickly going to change the configs here. There happens to be a reactor safe mode, which is disabled by default. You know what? Just going to enable safe mode, because if this thing explodes, I don't want to lose a whole bunch of progress near the end. Plus, how I mentioned, I don't really know what I'm doing yet. And I am choosing to go with, obviously, a subnet-based system where I'm going to put plutonium pellets, is it? The kind I'm making? Yes, these guys in here, and then put the dry ice over here. Dry ice? I mean packed ice. No, blue ice. I mean blue ice. Blue ice? Yeah, this stuff right here. And I think I'm going to go with neon green cable because it's nuclear and the nuclear waste is glowing green neon stuff, right? Right? And don't worry, I'm not infallible. I do make mistakes myself. I just tried to connect 9, 10 channels into something that has 8. Exclamation mark, too many channels in the Discord. Alright, the fuel is ready. I am, I think, ready. The world was backed up only recently. The reactor should not explode given that I have turned on safe mode. And I'm not going to be automatically importing the fuel just yet. I want to see what happens. Fuel goes in. It's heating up. And it's already unstable. Yeah. That's unfortunate. It's producing a whole butt ton of heat. And the coolant is rapidly going down. The heat is going oh so high. 6,000 C. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Interesting. And the end of that beeping in unsafe mode would be disastrous. My reactor would have exploded right about then. Reactor is overheated. Needs about 2 minutes to stabilize. Yikes. Well, I guess who did not make an appropriate reactor? This guy. Oh, and it does seem like I have misunderstood how this works. These guys are not getting any heat at all. Interesting. I might have to reconfigure how I lay this out. And you know, with the new and improved layout, which sort of looks like this, I've been able to squeeze in a couple extra of these cooling absorber things. I bet I can probably put a couple down in these corners here too. But you know what? Let's just see what happens. Let's see what happens. And now with the ice being directly pumped into these absorber ports, and all of them are full, the reactor is cooled down once again. I think I'm willing to give this reactor one last chance. This is still in the process of cooling down rather rapidly this time. I just hope that my setup doesn't overheat again. However, regardless of what happens, this is going to be the end of the video, so let's just jump to it. The plutonium fuel rod goes in, and I bet it starts overheating. Oh. How interesting. It's not overheating, and it's producing 64,000 RF per tick. That's not bad. I guess I just built it incorrectly the first time. But hey, that's pretty exciting news. In any case, guys, this has been a little bit of a dive into what's possible with Oritech in ATM10. As you can see, it's a lot of fun. There's a bunch of different mechanics. I'm sorry I couldn't get to the particle accelerator quite yet because I have other places to get to. A special thank you to my patrons whose names are going across the screen, and y'all better subscribe so you don't miss the finale, which is coming real soon because I have all of this set up and I have all of this set up too. So, keep your eyes open, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace out, everybody.